What's that noise?
It's beard ASMR.
Oh, right, okay. 12 hours, beard.
Yes, we're back to 12 hours videos again. That's probably...
That's what it always comes back to. The Steamed Hams episode was voted one of the top 5 Simpsons episodes of all time. And Monorail was in there as well.
Monorail is brilliant.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you see the... Yeah, you probably showed it me, didn't you?
Oh, the safe.
Yeah, I've sold Agile to
Yeah, that's really...
North Haverbrook and whatever the other places were.
It's one of those... It's funny because it's true. And also sad because it's true.
Yes.
And it's that fatalistic... Well, we need to laugh about it. But it's... yeah, absolutely. That is absolutely it.
There is a genuine funny because it's true way of being funny, though.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. Rather than this, we're doomed, so let's laugh in the face of our oncoming doom. Or we're doing the same thing again, and it's not going to work, but, we need to laugh about it. Well, so yeah.
The death march misery of millions.
So my general opinion on such things is when companies say we're going to do this, they're always going to struggle because they never have the internal discipline to do most methodologies, right? So whenever I used to go to a new company when I was with the test people, it would always be like, they'll be like, well, we do Scrum here, or we do Waterfall. And then you look at what they actually do, and they just do like multi-dimensional chaos.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, how do you expect to be able to perform any form of methodology when you just do chaos now? You're just going to do chaos again. So,
but with different meeting names.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's like, well, rather than thinking about methodologies, let's have a look at your chaos and see what's in there.
Oh.
But that's like the much more valuable way to start.
Yeah, but nobody wants to look at their chaos, do they?
No.
People want to pretend their chaos is...
Yeah. Part of the organisational healing process, the admission of chaos needs to happen. It's like, we need to say that we're not really in control of anything that we're doing, and we're just freewheeling towards our next big deliverable, and we'll do what needs to be done to get there. That may involve big design up front, it may involve iterating over things, but in general, we're just pretty much freewheeling. So let's admit that. And sometimes when you do admit that, there's catharsis there as well. So it's like, well, actually, yeah, we are a bit chaotic, but we're not doing so bad. So hello, Ian. Oh, you cough.
And I've just blown my meters here as well. I'm going to turn myself down slightly.
Right, okay. Oh, well, so it served a purpose then.
You'll turn myself down slightly.
Hello, Ian. Oh, you stop talking. God damn it. We can't even say hello.
We can do this. We got this. We got this.
And then we've got loads of things to talk about and 2 things as well.
Yeah.
So, and we've not done hello.
Right, I'm going to have a brief pause now.
Okay. Hello, Ian.
Hello, Ash.
How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. How about you?
Yeah, very good. Very good.
So, we're here again.
We're here again?
We always say that, don't we?
We do.
Perhaps it's me that always says that.
Yeah. You always sound quite surprised as well.
Yeah. That's because I've been party to the run-up.
The run-up? What's the run-up?
The run-up is the stacking cushions around the room to
right, okay.
absorb the stray echoes and putting up microphones and generally doing something which seems to be the equivalent of a technology system that's strung together with bits of sellotape and string, and then it somehow works.
Yeah, I'm familiar with all those things.
Yeah?
Yep.
So that might explain the surprise. So I feel morally obliged to follow up on last episode's Alexa skill. At that time, I hadn't published it. And then between recording the episode and releasing it, I polished it vigorously and then published it. Although it was rejected by Amazon the first time because, believe it or not, of a failed test.
Failed test. Testing always gets in the way of release, doesn't it?
It's so inconvenient.
Yeah, absolutely.
The test that failed would never have happened anyway.
Of course.
Because I was only going to publish it to the United Kingdom. So why would I make it be able to tell you gracefully when you were in a different country?
Who thinks about error handling?
It's just nitpicking. And
no one's got time for that.
No. So I was slightly inspired by Amazon's cruel rejection of my broken Alexa skill. So I fixed it and polished it a bit more, and it's now up and running. And guess how many people have used it?
More than 0?
Actually, only just. So one other person other than me has used it, according to its log files, and that person used it because I rang them up and asked them to.
That's very direct marketing.
Yes. So I think I've come up with an Alexa skill that's extremely useful to an extremely small number of people.
That's okay.
And it's very hard to communicate or know who those people are. So maybe it will continue to have 0 or maybe 1 reluctant user.
Well, there are quite a lot of filters on it. You have to use Octopus and
have that particular tariff.
So I guess it's targeted at a very particular group.
It is. And I'm not unhappy because the point of it was not to liberate people's electricity usage, although that is a nice side effect. The purpose of it was to learn how to do it. And I did that and improve my code, which I did as well.
So we shouldn't devalue the learning experience.
No, because if we did, there'd be nothing left. So yes, please someone use my Alexa skill. I'll publish a link to it I'll publish a link to it in the show notes, and then you can just use it to find out which would have been the cheapest 2-hour slot for your for your electricity usage if you were only on the right tariff and the right electricity provider.
Mm-hmm.
Another bit of follow up is that my friend, who I'm going to call Mark from Basingstoke, because I feel like that's how you should refer to. It's like radio shows. That's how you should refer to people. As first name from place they come from. So Mark from Basingstoke did mention the very loud beeps in episode 3, which I was talking about in the last episode,
right,
as having been a slight audio glitch. And he says, nice beeps on episode 3. Glass half full. I still have 50% hearing in my good ear.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't just me.
So does this mean you're going to go back and correct them in your perfectionist manner?
I already did that. But I just can't publish it, so it may as well not have bothered.
See, I think I was pleased to hear that piece of information, that once we've published the episode, between publishing and sharing, then basically Ian cannot go back and start to edit things again, which I feel is Ian needs that particularly that sort of powerful deadline or blocker to striving for perfectionism. Once it's been uploaded, then that's it. We're done. No further twiddles can be made, and we need that. Well, Ian needs that specifically. I don't.
We're calling them twiddles now.
Twiddles. See, I often say, if I'm committing something to source control, you know where you do your commit and then you push it up there and then you forget something.
Yes.
And you put a really nice message on the first commit, and then on the second commit where you've forgotten something, usually I just put twiddles.
Well, that's good, because I have lots of examples of that in the commit chain for my Alexa skills.
Yeah.
I don't think I've put twiddles on any of them, though.
Yeah, because you can always rebase, but I don't.
That sounds like sort of Git Ninja thing.
Yeah. So to be fair, if I'm working for a company, I do rebase. If it's on my own stuff, I don't rebase. I'm not that obsessed.
So that's given me something to do with my spare time now.
Yeah,
to go back and rebase all my small twiddles, as we're now calling them.
Yeah.
Cool. So I apologise to your bad ear and your good ear, Mark, for my terrible bleeps. And I promise that future bleeps will be, I'm tempted to swear now just so I can have a bleep, but I'm not going to. Future bleeps will be marvellous and wonderful in ways that we cannot fathom. We had a fan letter.
We did. It was very exciting.
It was. My head nearly exploded. So given my new policy of how to refer to people, the fan letter was from Mary from Lancashire. And we know it's a fan letter because it says it at the top.
Yeah.
Literally says, this is a fan letter. And there were many points of feedback in the fan letter.
There were.
And I feel we don't have time to highlight all of them. The most useful piece of feedback in there was, please do more singing, Ash.
It wasn't singing. It was kind of humming with some melody, perhaps.
When your musical career kicks off into full flow and you're basically some kind of rock star, you will remember these beginnings.
Yeah. So it'll just be various mixes of the theme from D'Artagnan and the Three Muskehounds. 12 hours worth. Sorry.
Well, actually, I think we have the wherewithal to do that today.
Yeah.
We just need a YouTube channel.
Yeah. I see. I don't know that exists, but I would put a reasonable amount of money on that existing.
No, it definitely doesn't exist. I'm talking about your version of it, not
the version that's already been done.
No.
If someone had already done a 12-hour version of the theme tune from D'Artagnan and the Three Muskehounds, then I'd probably just leave it.
But I feel as though your rendition should be made into a 12-hour version.
Could be.
We could have some really interesting visual effects. If only we had a YouTube channel.
If only we did have a YouTube channel, which is apparently a very good idea.
Should we get a YouTube channel?
Yeah, I think we probably should.
Do you think?
We've got a Google account, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
So we can have a YouTube channel.
Yeah.
There's already one waiting for us.
Yeah.
We just merely need to put the effort in.
And hopefully no one's taken the name.
Oh, yeah. Otherwise, we'll end up with another What a Lot of Thing or
What
Lot of Things or something like that.
I honestly don't think I think my circuits would overload if I got to say What a Lot of Thing twice in an episode.
Yeah.
So yes, please do more singing. Mary also refers to our rambling waffle, which I think is what we're doing now as opposed to talking about the thing.
Yeah.
Which she describes as a soothing balm in a world of splintered fragments.
So the rambling waffle is splintered fragment, but
made into soothing balm.
So to be honest, as far as feedback goes, I'm pretty pleased with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's room in the world for purposeless soothing balm.
I couldn't possibly agree more.
Yeah, because there's so much call for us to be purposeful that, I enjoy a bit of purposelessness. Apart from the many jobs that I've had, which when I look back, they were purposeless. But but that's different.
Well, I guess as long as you got paid.
Oh, yeah. That's enough to maintain the human spirit.
Yeah. Yeah. How depressing. Well, thank you very much, Mary from Lancashire and Mark from Basingstoke.
Thank you. It's so nice to hear from you. Sorry, that sounded really not that genuine. See,
he does really mean that.
Yeah, I do. So I have someone I used to work with could not give a genuine. He wanted to give genuine compliments about people's work, but he couldn't do it. It would always sound really terrible. So someone would write some tests or something like that, and he'd be like, "Nice one," and he'd be like, "I really offend everyone, but I can't help it. I mean it. I was really pleased with that. I'm really pleased with that."
Oh dear.
Yeah. I found it very entertaining.
Reminds me of Father Ted.
Yeah.
The most sarcastic priest in the world.
Yeah.
And they said to him, no, I'm not going to go there. No Irish accent impersonations on this podcast.
No. It never turns out well, does it?
No.
I can't do accents anyway. I have rubbish accents.
No, you're pretty good at your accent.
Yeah. So I always found as I speak at conferences, I remember getting some feedback that people couldn't understand my accent. I think I have quite a neutral accent, but...
Well, I wouldn't go so far as neutral, but you definitely have a definite accent.
Yeah.
But doesn't obscure your words.
No. But I just found that really strange.
Yeah.
But anyway, I wasn't trying to do an Irish accent while I was talking.
No. I'm really happy to hear that.
Yeah, that would have been really terrible.
It really would have been terrible.
Yeah, definitely.
I suppose at some point we ought to bring ourselves to the topic of things.
Yes, let's talk about two things.
So, I think that...
Who goes first this week?
Well, I think it's got to be you.
Okay.
It's monopolising the airwaves
time. Right, are you ready for a lengthy monologue about the thing that I want to talk about?
Use your powers only for good.
Yeah. So my thing is that Twitter had planned to start to deactivate a load of old usernames and accounts.
Oh.
Which really piqued my interest from a very selfish point of view at first, because I want the @AshWinter Twitter handle. And when I look at the @AshWinter Twitter handle, it's not done a great deal. Without wishing to be too judgmental, I'm not quite sure what value it's added to the world.
Well, it has two very important pithy comments in it.
I do enjoy a pithy comment.
And I think the first comment is insulting a footballer by calling them something.
Yeah, which is actually quite a common usage for Twitter, apparently.
Yeah.
So it's not out of the ordinary what Ash Winter has used their Twitter account for.
No.
But I feel like, as a person who contributes often to the technology community, I would quite like that.
Yeah, not unreasonably.
No. But then, once I started looking into this, it actually led down a slightly deeper rabbit hole, as most of our things tend to do, to be fair.
They do.
And it started to talk about, well, what happens if that Twitter account that hasn't been used for the past 5 years, or whatever the policy is someone who's died, or someone who's some kind of legacy in some kind of way. Which made me think. So obviously, from a selfish point of view, I would like a new Twitter handle, which is my name. But what happens if those 2 pithy comments are, all that's left of that particular person in terms of their digital legacy. So that kind of, it piqued my interest. It really did.
I think it's very interesting, and you do kind of, there is some balance to be struck, isn't there? Because you don't want Twitter to delete your loved one's account just out of the blue, because really that might be a significant, I mean, some people use Twitter a lot. That might be a significant repository of their thoughts and things that they've
absolutely
done in their lives. But I mean, equally, I'm not sure the particular instance of the @ashwinter Twitter account has that same kind of value.
Yeah.
Maybe they were cut off at the start of a brilliant and glittering Twitter career by some tragic incident that happened in 2009, immediately after they posted that whatever his name was something or other. So I've just indicated my entire understanding of football in that statement. It seems less perhaps valuable than some other things.
Yeah. And it really got me thinking about when these various social media sites, applications were being created, did we really think about like the ramifications going forward of storing this amount of data and it becoming literally like a memorial to someone? Like, that's quite a profound change in the world, isn't it? Because essentially you've captured a lot of their like essence, if you like, digitally.
It is. It really is. And actually, it kind of shows how things have changed, because it's like photographs. I imagine an archaeologist in 3,000 years' time looking back at us and wondering what happened to the photographic record in around, 2005 or something. And effectively, we all stopped taking pictures that got printed.
Yeah.
And they're all just digital now.
Poor old Polaroid.
Yeah. Although I think they're someone's bought the brand and they're still going in some way.
Oh, right.
But the number of printed pictures is a fraction of what it was.
Yeah.
And people, they express themselves in that digital way now. So it really is a profound insight. I mean, clearly it must be of value because the companies collect it assiduously.
Yeah. But it's kind of telling that Twitter initially they said, well, we're going to do this sort of purge, if you like, of inactive accounts. But it seemed to be delivered in a fairly matter-of-fact sort of way, which it's just seeing data as data. So well, it's just kind of, it's just tables and blob storage or whatever it is.
We're going to write some scripts to do some housekeeping.
Yeah. And I've certainly, over the course of my career, I've been part of teams that have built like archiving services, and all of them are very matter-of-fact, and they don't think about the story of that data. And the thing is with data around social media is that it's a very rich story as well.
Yeah.
Because it has a timeline. It represents, like, to a certain extent, events in the real world, or certainly mirrors them, depending on how much you post and what you post about. And then it has, like, it's like multivariate. It has the actual content, as in the words, and then the time, and then images and videos. And it's like, well, actually, this is one of the richest records of people's lives that have ever been created.
Yeah, and I guess it extends to quote unquote ordinary people's lives.
Yeah.
And, history records the actions and the lives of people of particular significance.
Yeah.
And I suppose what we've got here is a history that's altogether different in scale and potentially importance.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's like now lots of lives get examined in and you can examine a lot of lives in quite a deep way, can't you?
Yeah.
If you've got, if you aggregate, like, if someone's active on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and various other places, that is a highly examined life, and a very, very public one as well. So just to say, well, we're going to archive these away, and let someone else have the handle. It's quite a big thing to do, isn't it?
Yeah, and it looks like they've backed off from it a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is probably the sensible thing to do.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they've realised it's not a technical thing they're doing, and they've realised actually, I suspect that as well as not being just a purely technical thing, there's a kind of next level of, well, they're taking up all these usernames that other people want.
Yeah.
And, that's the case with your, the @ashwinter username. And that's the sort of level of, that's why they publicised, I guess, what they were doing, because they were sort of saying, look, we're going to free up all these usernames. And now they've kind of realised, well, actually, there's this rich legacy, and we have to, in some places anyway, and we have to figure out a way of doing this in a way that has, I guess, the least harm.
Yeah, definitely. So how would you like your digital legacy to be preserved?
So really, that's an interesting question because when I have or see little scraps of writing that come from my grandparents
Yeah.
who died quite a long time ago now, that has huge value to me.
Yeah.
Just seeing their, I don't know, their handwriting or a picture of them or something like that. So I suppose I want my children, the next generation, to be able to have access to things that I've written down and
Yeah.
thought, or maybe even recorded on a
Yeah. I
on a
guess this
podcast.
podcast is an example as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I would like that. But on the other hand, there's a sort of balance there, isn't there? Because do I want them to see everything I've ever written on a social media account? I'd probably be embarrassed by some of it. I mean, if you think, I mean, I've been on Twitter since 2007.
Yeah.
So that's 12 years of tweets. I mean, I haven't tweeted nearly as much as some people I know,
Yeah.
but 12 years of tweets is still a lot.
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands. And I'm sure some of them I will have tweeted when I was angry or maybe even drunk or something like that, where I would think...
that one.
Well, yeah, I don't know, but you kind of think, I want my whatever digital legacy I have to show me in a good light. So maybe it's not everything.
Yeah, yeah. I suppose there's also that as well, isn't there? Because my Twitter account, for example, I tweet about articles that I've written, podcasts that I've been on, talks that I've given, talks that I'm attending. I don't really post about like personal, talk about my life, if you know what I mean. Just that aspect. So it's a very incomplete. It's an incomplete view of me. Is my social media, because I don't have Facebook and I barely log into Instagram. So it depends how you use it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it does. Because I mean, I guess you're getting into being a work persona and a rest of your life persona.
Yeah.
This is full of depth, this topic.
Yeah, definitely. Which is why I got really interested in it. Because I guess my other question was, so if you go, say if Ian, you went and became a monk and lived in a monastery, which I know is one of your dreams.
As long as it's got good broadband. Oh, yeah. Wait, no, I'm about to destroy this analogy. Go on.
And if you suddenly, so would that went to a monastery and became essentially, is that a digital death, do you think? If you suddenly rejected technology?
Well, I suppose that depends. What does a digital death mean?
Yeah.
I mean, somebody who's surveilling the digital record would see it as such, I suppose.
Yeah.
I suppose that then you're getting into what's the benefit of a recorded life.
Yeah.
If I were to retire to a monastery on an island with no mobile signal and no broadband...
Sounds amazing.
Then I would clearly have lost my mind. But if I were to retire to that island, maybe I would learn a tremendous amount about myself. Maybe I would have tremendous insights that the world needed to hear. But they would never know because I would have discarded my digital shell and walked off into the brave, unknown future.
Until they found your notebooks afterwards.
Yes.
3,000 years later.
Scratching on the walls like in the Tower of London, in the jails, in the cells in the Tower of London, all the graffiti of various prisoners carved into rock.
Yeah.
Permanence.
So, okay, so let's flip it round a bit. So if you died... Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh when I said that.
Well, I don't think you need the if. I think at some point I'm going to die. Unless the singularity happens and I get uploaded to a bloody server farm. But,
oh, God.
Have very little. That's a rabbit hole as well.
Yeah.
I feel as though I would need to see IT security being solved much more fundamentally before I would let someone make a digital copy of my brain that could then be... made illicitly further copied by criminals and made to work in a spam email producing virtual sweatshop.
That just sounds amazing, doesn't it?
Well, it sounds like the original non-copied version of me might not even know. And there would be something else which would be just as much me being tortured into writing crappy emails. I just think we need to know that's not going to be able to happen before it makes... Anyway, sorry, I'm just going off on one.
That's all right. So if you were to unfortunately pass away, which, as you say, inevitably will happen, and also you have a 3-letter Twitter handle as well, which is quite desirable, I would imagine.
I could tell you some reasons why it's undesirable if you want.
Yes, but we'll let the listener delve into those for themselves. But a 3-letter Twitter handle is quite desirable. So if you were to die, and then 5 years later they put your Twitter handle up for auction, how would you feel?
I'd feel better if my remaining family members and the beneficiaries of whatever will I might make were receiving the money from the auction.
I see. So you've gone full capitalist there.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, you're right. I mean, I suppose in real estate terms, to use the Americanism,
Yeah.
it is desirable Twitter handle. Yeah, I'd feel slightly annoyed at Twitter for doing that, I think.
Yeah. So you can make a social media will, and there's a place called the Digital Legacy Association, which is really interesting as well to read about.
Yeah.
Because they take this very, very seriously, because they kind of recognize the profound nature of some of the data that you leave behind. So it's definitely worth a read. So in my social media will, I'm going to leave a request to insult a footballer from the @AshWinter Twitter handle that I'm going to have, and then close it down. So the circle will be complete.
Yeah, I think really, what else can you do?
No, absolutely. I can't think of anything else. Because like I say, that is the most common use case for Twitter. Find someone who's famous, insult them, and then don't go back on the platform for years and years and years.
I suppose it's a way to basically avoid any possibility of a comeback from them.
Yeah. Yeah. Joke's on you. I'm dead.
Sucker.
So?
Wow.
Yeah,
that was deep.
That was pretty deep. But that was my thing.
What a great thing. Thank you, Ash.
No worries. So should we move on to thing 2?
There's a thing 2.
Ian, what's your thing 2?
My thing as well. So my thing is a book. So a few episodes ago, we can now say that because we've made some few episodes. In episode 2, we talked about team topologies.
Yes, we did. Great book.
And it was your thing for
my
that
thing.
episode.
Yeah.
So my thing for this episode is another book from the same publisher.
We're not sponsored by that publisher.
We're not sponsored by that
but
publisher.
But if they want to sponsor us.
We've given our contact details several times over the course of this podcast, and we will reiterate them again at the end. All sponsorship money gratefully received, especially if that means I can buy new technology to improve the podcast. Seriously, don't let me do that. So the book that I'm talking about is a brand new out, I think on the 26th of November.
Yep.
And it's called The Unicorn Project. And it is a novel about digital disruption, red shirts, and overthrowing the ancient powerful order.
Oh, sounds intriguing.
Have you read The Phoenix Project, Ash?
I have read The Phoenix Project.
So that was a novel about IT, DevOps, and helping your business win.
Oh.
And The Unicorn Project, I'd like to say it's a sequel to The Phoenix Project, but it isn't really, because it happens at the same time, just from the perspective of a different bunch of people in the same company. And so The Phoenix Project came from an ops perspective.
Yeah.
And The Unicorn Project comes from a development perspective, which is obviously a slightly different kind of emphasis, but it's the same situation, just seen by different people. And a lot of the same characters are in it as were in The Phoenix Project. And I think The Phoenix Project might be one of my number one. One of my number one
books.
Let me backpedal.
Oh, that's amazing.
The Phoenix Project is a book I've recommended to a lot of people. And the reason I recommend it so much is that it really well articulates some quite counterintuitive things about the best way to do things.
Yeah.
And things like WIP limits, limits on how many things it's okay to be doing at the same time. That seems like a quite unintuitive thing to limit, but actually it's quite profoundly powerful to do it. So I love the Phoenix Project because it expresses a lot of those things really clearly. So was really excited when I heard that the sequel was coming out.
Yeah, because the Phoenix Project was a number of counterintuitive concepts, like you say, but also it was familiar enough. It had enough sort of pathos in it to appeal to people, and people would see themselves and their companies in it, which I think is really important as well.
Yeah,
and it's a non-textbook way of expressing those concepts, which is probably has a chance at wider engagement, I think.
Yeah, agreed. And everyone who's been in some kind of terrible IT death march of a project will recognise it.
I've never been in one of those.
No, nor have I. But I've heard that some people have. Yeah, so in the Phoenix project, they talked about the 3 ways, which was really about DevOps. And it was system thinking and feedback loops and continuous experimentation and learning.
Yeah.
And in the course of discussing that, they outlined the 4 types of work.
Right.
Which was business projects and IT operations projects, and then changes, and then the one that we all love, unplanned work.
Yeah.
So having got 3 of something and then 4 of something, the unicorn project is topping the bill by having the 5 ideals. And whenever I hear the 3 things and the 4 things and the 5 things, it always reminds me of that Monty Python sketch about, anyway, without going there. So the 5 ideals are about delivering software.
Yeah.
And I guess the thing to do might be if I just read out to you what they are, then
Sure.
we can maybe drill into a couple of them.
We can pick a couple.
So the first ideal is locality and simplicity, which is about having loosely coupled architectures, but also not requiring endless collaboration between teams in order to get anything done, which is kind of what we talked about when we were talking about team topology.
Yeah, absolutely. Cognitive load.
Yes.
Concepts.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the second ideal was focus, flow, and joy, which I really become attuned to that word joy because of Marie Kondo and her house decluttering usage of it. So her thing is that if you have a thing in your house and it doesn't spark joy, then you should get rid of it. And I think that's a really good way of doing that. But the second ideal is focus, flow, and joy. So are you focused on a business problem? Are you being able to deliver value and make the world better? And are you having fun? So the third ideal is improvement of daily work. And that kind of was also present very strongly in the Phoenix project. The really strong message of this book is saying that improving daily work is actually a higher priority activity than doing daily work.
Yeah. So
and again, that's quite counterintuitive.
Yeah, absolutely. I can think of a few people who would look at me like I was insane for saying that.
But actually, if you look back through the history of IT, there's quite a lot of stuff around that. So, the famous Bill Gates trustworthy computing memo, where he said he insisted that programmers at Microsoft, if they have a choice between implementing a feature or improving security, they must improve security.
Yeah.
And the opposite of that is being obsessed with process compliance and doing things the way we've always done them.
Because that's best.
Yes. That's how he got into this mess.
We'll just do more of that, but harder.
Yes.
I'll dig this hole deeper.
Yeah. And then we'll see if that made it easier to get out. So the fourth ideal is psychological safety. And there's a really interesting Google report, actually, that gets cited, which is to say that Google did an analysis of their high-performing teams and found that psychological safety was the most important of the 5 things they looked at in high-performing teams. And again, if people don't feel safe to express concerns or try new things, then that really impairs how well the team can do. So I thought that was a really good one. And then the fifth ideal was customer focus, and they talked a lot about dividing activities into core activities and context activities. That's obviously a particular use of the word context. You don't want to get muddled up with other uses of that term, but core is basically stuff that your customers are paying you for, the stuff that creates real value for them, and the context is everything else. In the fifth ideal, there's a lot of talking about what stuff are you doing that isn't really helping your customers, and do you really need to do that?
Like filling in your timesheets.
I guess that helps your organisation bill money, but other than that, is it an activity that customers see as valuable? Absolutely not.
No, so I don't do it.
Do you find it very easy to get paid when you don't do it? That might be core for you.
Well, I guess that's probably the consideration there, right?
Yeah, I think it probably is.
Yeah.
So what grabs you out of that lot?
So I think the first thing would probably be the use of the word joy.
Oh, yes.
Because I think often we see work as drudgery, and we think that soldiering on through something that we dislike intensely is some kind of badge of honour, and it just needs to be done. Early in my career, certain people would say to me, and I would always find it really strange, you haven't been on a really terrible project yet. So I was early in my career, be doing what I thought was great work and delivering loads of value. But when it came to like promotion and pay rise, it was like, well, you haven't been on a really terrible one yet.
Oh,
You haven't shown your worth. You haven't, battled through the the drudgery and the horror of a terrible project. So that one always really, really like got to me.
Yeah.
And I like to see the use of the word joy and enjoying your work, because I think we value the opposite of that sometimes.
Yeah. He quotes like, we're not paying you to have fun.
Yeah.
If you want to have fun, do it on your own time.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I've heard that before.
Yeah, I have.
Yeah. And why is there so much laughter going on here? It's like, well, because we're having a good time.
Oh, you mean you don't mean here in this room now?
Not in this room, no. But in general. So yeah, I think it's really important to use the word joy and to allow ourselves to use such words too.
I couldn't agree more. And I do like the Marie Kondo thing.
Yeah.
Of does a thing spark joy? And if it doesn't, is there a place for it?
Yeah. And I think it says focus, flow, and joy on purpose there, right?
Yeah.
Because all three are fairly well related.
They almost lead to one another, don't they?
Yeah.
Because focus can lead to having flow and being able to sort of work in that kind of magic way where you no longer get the passage of time and you're just really focused on what you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a really great feeling.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know when you're in it, because it's quite rare.
Yeah. Normally you have to stop and go to a meeting.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think a lot of workplaces are kind of conducive to helping you get to that state either, which is kind of sad really as well, isn't it? Because you would hope that you would be able to feel that on a very regular basis, but it doesn't seem to be the way.
And I guess it ties into that third ideal as well of the improvement of daily work.
Yeah.
Because actually what you really want is for your organisation to continuously improve the way that things are done.
Yeah.
Until you can actually have that focus and flow.
Yeah.
So that you're not being interrupted to go to meetings or not being interrupted by things that aren't your core mission of adding value to your end users and your customers. And then I think that if nothing is getting in the way of that and you are being super productive, I think that does lead to joy. You do feel good about yourself and what you're doing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think in organisations where you don't spend much time on continuous improvement, I think that's probably one of the sort of chief thieves of joy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just like, well, you really struggle. And then your brain starts to think, well, is there any point?
Yeah.
Which is a really dangerous place to get to, isn't it?
It really is, yeah.
I always find that really interesting, especially with programming as well, because I've seen lots of people on teams asking permission to like write tests, unit tests, for example.
Asking permission?
Yeah, saying, well, have we got time to do this? It's like, well, it's kind of part of what you do.
Have we got time to not do it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as soon as someone says, well, you don't have time to do that, or you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't create something that you would be proud of, then I think that's kind of a thief of joy as well.
Yeah.
And it starts to kind of sap away at it. I think as long as it's kind of what's in context, if you're in a startup who's trying to validate an idea quickly, well, you could probably make certain compromises there. But if you've got a massively scaled system, which millions of people depend upon, then you need that engineering excellence and that level of joy, the joy that gives you and the focus on what you're trying to achieve. So I always find it interesting how much time organizations spend on continuous improvement as well. So I think in the third ideal, does it say 20%?
Gene Kim, who wrote he was one of the co-authors of the Phoenix project, and he wrote the Unicorn project. He did a talk at the Portland DevOps Days about the book and the 5 ideals.
Yeah.
In that he was saying that 20% of time should be spent on fixing things that need fixing.
Yeah.
And on paying down technical debt.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not to say it should never exist. It's just to say, you should have a focus on at least making inroads into it rather than just leaving it to fester forever. Because a few places where I've worked, we've suddenly embarked on a vast improvement project when things have got so bad that everything's ground to a halt, and then you need to stop feature development entirely in order to go and fix all that stuff, which doesn't seem like a very sustainable flow of work, does it?
No, and actually that's exactly what happens in the Phoenix project and the Unicorn project.
Yeah.
Because they're on the same timeline, but they have a month where they stop feature development and just work on improving how they work, on paying down technical debt. And that's what enables the whole positive sort of outcomes in the book anyway that take place.
Yeah, because in the DevOps handbook, I think they talk about an example from LinkedIn, which is very similar.
Yeah.
Essentially, they built a platform for thousands, and then suddenly it had millions. But then after a while, they just spent all their time fighting the fires and just trying to crank the handle of the thing that they had. And in the end, they just had to stop and essentially rebuild the entire system on a different architecture. And then they had to have very difficult conversations with their product people in order to make that happen, because they were like, well, we're growing at such an exponential rate and we need these features. But it's like, we're growing at such an exponential rate that we're not going to have a platform soon. It's just going to melt. So we need to do something about this. So that was really interesting as well. So it does happen at big companies in the real world as well.
Well, I mean, the argument in the book is that basically all of those companies, what they call them, the FANG companies, it's Facebook, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, and maybe other ones.
Yeah.
LinkedIn, Fangle.
Newfangled.
In the book, he talks about all of those companies. It adds Microsoft actually as well to the list.
Yeah.
Had near-death experiences.
Yeah.
Because of technical debt. And he also he uses the example of Nokia, which is a company which actually died from technical debt.
Had an actual death experience.
Yeah, and Symbian, which was their sort of their platform, took 2 days to do a build.
Yeah.
And nobody could move off it because the top executives kept shooting it down.
Yeah.
And that went on to not end well. So when you look at all the near-death experiences and then the actual death experiences that are really to do with how you deal with technical debt, it's quite sobering. It's not something that you can just kind of gloss over, really.
No, and it just always feels like a hard sell to either an individual team who are under pressure to deliver a thing, and therefore they start like cutting corners, but with no plan to pay it back later.
Yeah.
Or to an executive or product person who wants something but doesn't really take into account the implicit requirements as well. Nobody says it, but they want reliability and they want uptime.
Yeah.
But they also want the feature. But the feature is the thing that gets written down and built, and then somehow we have to make sure that it's reliable and has error handling, like your Alexa skill. All those types of practices as well. So it's like, well, how do you do that? How do you get that reliability and uptime and all the good stuff while in a feature factory type scenario? I don't think it's with a 100% focus on features.
Well, I guess all I can say is that our listeners should read the Phoenix Project and the Unicorn Project, because those books together are a story of exactly that.
Yeah, and the goal as well.
And the goal, yeah.
Mm.
Do you want to describe what the goal is?
Describe what the goal is. So I really like the goal, but I mainly liked it because I wanted to know what happened to the main sort of protagonist and his wife at the end, to make sure that they had a happy ending. But essentially, it's about turning around a manufacturing plant by focusing on the entire system and where the bottlenecks were and solving them, rather than locally optimizing in individual areas and hoping that everything's going to be okay.
So it's basically the Phoenix Project for factory.
Yeah.
Well, actually, the Phoenix Project had a factory in it.
Yeah, that's true. It was a bit of a homage, wasn't it, I think?
I think it was.
Yeah.
So there's a limit to how much we can talk about this, but
because there's loads of other good stuff in there as well, isn't there?
There absolutely is. But I thoroughly recommend, if you haven't read the Phoenix Project, then read the Phoenix Project. And then once you've read that, you can move on to the Unicorn Project. And then you'll have 3 ways, 4 types of work, and 5 ideals.
2 books, 3 ways, 4 types of work.
God. 2 books.
1 Gene Kim. 2 books. It's almost like an alternative 12 Days of Christmas song.
Yeah. Well, maybe we can release that. Make our millions. And a partridge in a pear tree. Cool.
Okay. Thank you, Ian. That was a great thing.
Well, thank you. I have enjoyed recording this episode.
Me too.
That sounded really insincere,
didn't
it?
It did. I like that. That was great.
Yeah. That was so good. Can we do it again?
Well, if it recorded.
If it recorded. Yes, that's an hour and 7 minutes of us talking to dead microphones. If you love the Phoenix Project or the Unicorn Project,
or have thought about your digital death,
then you should get in touch with us and tell us your story.
So how can they get in touch, Ian?
Well, you could tweet to us.
At What A Lot Of Thing.
Only one thing.
Only one thing. Or you could email us.
whatalotoftthings@gmail.com.
And you can leave us a voice recording message.
Yes.
I think.
Yeah. No one ever has.
No.
But the functionality definitely exists on our podcast homepage at anchor.fm, which is anchor.fm/whatalotoftthings. And it should be in the show notes as well. There's a link in the show notes. And you can follow us on Instagram, where we occasionally post hilarious pictures. Maybe what we should do is record a video of us making the clanger sound.
Okay.
And then we can put that on.
Okay.
If the world is ready for that type of thing.
Those sorts of hijinks.
It's likely that we're going to skip an episode over Christmas.
It's Christmas.
So that we can enjoy our Christmas festivities unencumbered with the dread associated with trying to edit the sound of our voices going on about various things. And everyone needs a couple of weeks off from perfectionism every year. This will be mine.
I expect Ian just to work on this for 2 weeks now.
No, I'll be rebasing all my all my Git commits. Yes, so what that really means is that our next episode will be coming out.
Don't say a date. Don't say a date.
Because that's the
no one
how
says
I roll. So at the moment, this episode is going to come out on the 10th, and then we're not going to release an episode on the 24th.
Spend some time with your families, for goodness sake.
And we will release our next episode, therefore, on the 7th of January.
Can it just be beard noise?
It could just be beard noise. I'm not sure if anyone would thank us for that.
No, maybe not.
Is that an insufficient gap?
We'll see. Just don't put that in the pod. Don't mention dates. I'm still really paranoid about dates and estimates. We need to talk about estimates as well, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
So we could get to the bottom of my rampaging paranoia about saying when something will be done. Maybe it's because I'm paranoid about when people say things will be done, what they mean is they're going to have done some programming. And then everybody then turns around and looks at the testers to say, why are you holding everything up?
Damn you, testers.
Yeah, always getting in the way. No fun.
Cool.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Ian.
Thank you. And thank you to our listeners.
Yes, always. More fan mail, please.
More fan mail, yes.
Stoke the ego.
Yes. And yes.
Yes and yes.
I was about to demand that Mary sends us a second fan message, but that seems a bit harsh.
Yeah.
She should be able to do that spontaneously when the spirit moves her.
Yeah, absolutely. With her own free will.
So if we don't get some spontaneous
expected
fan mail, then we'll be coming round your house.
Live in the whole of Lancashire.
We know where you live because of... not Mary, just everyone.
Right.
We'll pick someone and punish them.
That's not what we're about.
You sure?
Certain.
Okay, we can skip that bit.
Yeah.
But, yeah. Okay. Have a good Christmas.
You too.
See you in the new year.
Goodbye.
Bye.
You always do that.
I'm not going to do that anymore.